Yesterday, I think I can say this now, I didn't want to create a tense atmosphere at the meeting. Although I could have reacted more strongly to some issues, I said what I needed to say to Mr. Zelensky privately, just between us. When it came to the public outcome, I wanted us to give the public the impression that there is an interest in good neighborly relations, which there is. But there are issues where, if they continue, we will protest very strongly. For example, we just did not agree at all on the topic of attacks on oil infrastructure on Russian Federation territory. Mr. Zelensky repeatedly said that if Russia attacks Ukraine's energy infrastructure, then he has the right to attack Russia's energy infrastructure. I responded that it harms us. You can't protect your own national interests by damaging others. That's just not acceptable. Did you find agreement or not? No, no. Here it's obvious that, as if Ukraine, in conducting the war, is not considering the interests of other states. I blame the leaders of the European Union for not being present in China at the 80th anniversary celebrations. There was an incredible opportunity to talk. If we will not talk and we stick our heads in the sand, we only deepen the crisis. Europe, in a sense, has isolated itself. You know what is most embarrassing? That the prime minister of a sovereign government has to explain why he's going to China. Are you all crazy? China is today a country that is becoming a world leader. We should all be glad that China has its own peace-oriented policy. I'm sure you listened to speeches at the 80th anniversary. We must respect China as a country that has achieved the impossible. Everyone lectures that it's a country with just one political party and so on. Well, let's compare. We have this democratic system that everybody celebrates and thinks is the best in the world. Everyone can scold whoever they want. There's no authority. Our economy is declining. Every second country has gigantic political scandals and crises, and our political systems are collapsing. But we criticize China because it's, well, China. At the meeting with President Putin, we discussed bilateral cooperation between Slovakia and Russia. Again, I said openly, I've said this 100 times. Regardless of what anyone thinks about Russia, I believe relations with the Russian Federation must be standardized. I also reject the Iron Curtain currently forming between Europe and Russia. We have a constructive approach toward Russia and are interested that once the war ends, things get back to normal as quickly as possible. Let's be honest, Mr. Editor, do you think all the Western companies left Russia? That's just not true. At home, they shout all kinds of moral appeals, but their companies are still operating in Russia. Do you think the West isn't buying LNG from Russia? Russia is the world's second biggest supplier of LNG to Europe. Morality is one thing, moral appeals, but hard business is something else. What is today's position of Slovak diplomacy within the EU? Very sovereign. You'd be rather surprised because this is not the only case where I have acted sovereignly. You surely remember the mandatory quotas for migrants and many other issues. When nuclear plants were nearly banned, we decided to build the third and fourth blocks at Moshovce. I have absolutely no worries about the status of Slovakia's diplomacy or the Slovak Republic within the EU. I worry about the EU. What did we think would happen by isolating ourselves, for example, not going to China's celebrations? That we would somehow spoil their celebrations? Chinese leaders were certainly ready to meet with all important European leaders if they'd come. The EU thinks it's the prettiest, wisest, and is in love with itself. We're full of conflicts and scandals. Just look at former Justice Commissioner Mr. Reinders, now suspected of money laundering. That's a huge disgrace sometimes. Understand that China is extremely important regarding so-called rare earths and mineral resources needed in the automotive sector. Naturally, when China sees how others act, they feel export permits should be delayed a bit, take a bit longer, and so on. I raised the issue, and we were told right away that, as far as Slovakia is concerned, there will be no obstacles to export permits for those products needed for the automotive industry. Long ago, as Prime Minister, maybe as one of the first, I said Ukraine would not join NATO. Today, that's reality. They are looking for other security guarantees for Ukraine. Did you clarify this with Volodymyr Zelensky as well? I told him that when we talked about Ukraine not joining NATO, we always believed that Ukraine not being in NATO is the first condition for ending the war. If we keep playing with the idea that Ukraine will join NATO, the conflict will never end. Because NATO's expansion, and Russia being deceived about that in the past, is one of the reasons for war. I'm glad security guarantees are being discussed. But let's remember, it's not just about Ukraine's security. Let's also talk about guarantees for Russia. This should all be one package. We can't create guarantees for just one side, Russia or Ukraine. We have to define together what the world looks like after the war. And I believe the war will end very soon, although right now it doesn't really look that way. Yesterday, President Zelensky directly asked me about security guarantees. I replied very clearly. Slovakia will not place any soldiers on Ukrainian territory. Absolutely none.